Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with the 19th Foodie book tag. My goal is to release about at least 6 of them per year. We've been doing a good job thus far on this channel, and the newest Foodie book tag is going to be perhaps the most controversial of them all. This is called the game book tag, which is food that you hunt for, and the observance is the fact that late November, early December is usually the beginning of hunting season in this area, and I thought I would put questions together that pertain to either the animal that was being hunted, the process of which it is hunted, and the finished product as them as food, which the development of the questions is going to be inspired by one of those 3 theories. And the particular subjects are not necessarily things that you can are not necessarily things that are permitted to be hunted in a particular area or at any point in time. These are just things that have been, either are or have once been hunted for whatever reason. Let's talk about the game that is being presented here, and I'm pretty sure that there are people that enjoy hunting and eating the food that they hunt for. So let's get started. The first one is alligator, which alligator hunting has been a thing. In many cases it has become illegal though. And the question that I put together for this is fill in the blanks. If you like this well-known writer, you will like this lesser-known writer, inspired by the fact that everybody says that alligator tastes like chicken. The one I have for this is a bit different, but it's very fitting if you have been watching Season 8 of our channel. For me, it's, if you like Bycel, you'll like Boris Pahor, because both of these people have depicted the Holocaust in a straightforward, honest way that tells you the details that fit the particular situation. There's no sugarcoating or altering the facts so that it caters to the general reader. It tells you the details as they happened, and what you need to know. Not what you want to know, but what you need to know. Bycel was a Jewish teenager living in what was known back then as Transylvania, while Boris Pahor was Slovenian, and he was an adult at the time. They're from different backgrounds, but they both had to endure the horrors and the terrors of the concentration camps, and I think that both of them really give a raw perspective on the Holocaust. The next one is turtle, often found in turtle soup. A work that was incredibly slow. And for this one, I went with The Fall by Albert Camus. I really liked The Stranger. I thought it was a really thought-provoking, existentially brilliant work, but The Fall to me just seemed to drag. It was just, it completely took place within an interview, and it just, to me, it seemed very constrained, and I was waiting for it to break out, and it didn't. Next one is Pheasant. A lesser-known work you feel needs to be mass-produced, and pheasants are often hunted and brought down in mass numbers. And for this one, I chose Sleepwalkers by Nicole Lainer Montez. And I've noticed that poetry has really started to pick up again. It seemed to lose attention for a few decades, but Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur, The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace. A lot of feminist poetry has really started to garner attention. And I think that Nicole Lainer Montez not only explores feminism, but she also explores race and social issues. And she does it so eloquently and cleverly. It's just amazing. And I think that more people need to get their hands on this. We went over Extra Naked back in Season 5, and it made for a very thought-provoking discussion. The next one is Partridge, a work that you feel can never have a sequel, like that partridge in a pear tree. I am going with The Great Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes, because one, Daniel Keyes passed away a few years ago, but without giving anything away, I think that the ending of this book speaks for itself. And I think that a sequel would do nothing more than add a sense of emotion that is not necessary. And I think that what Keyes does with Flowers for Algernon in one book, he does wonders with it, and that's why it is a modern classic that more people need to know about and need to recognize as such. Next one is Quail, a work where it is required that you read every single word and detail on the basis that there are so many parts of the quail that can be consumed. And for this one, I went with House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, because House of Leaves is not a book that you're going to read in one go and be able to comprehend. There are so many ways in which you can read this. There are so many angles. There's people that research this like it is the encyclopedia that you see right here. There's so many lenses, perspectives, stories, point of views. There's just so much to this that not only do you have to pay attention to every detail, but you have to do so continuously until you are able to grasp it. Next one is Duck, a work you decided to read because you became caught up in a great deal of hype to do so. Just like the people on Duck Dynasty have brought a sense of hype into. And for that, I went with The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I was taking part in Sigma Tau Delta, and everybody was talking about how amazing this book was. Even the people in the literature club that I'd started up at my college. Everybody was saying how The Fault in Our Stars by John Green really hit home for them, and it really spoke to them, and I had to check it out for myself because I was filled with a great sense of amazement and curiosity. Yeah, and reading this really spoke for itself. I did get through this pretty... the last 150 pages I read in one sitting, so it was that amazing. Next one is Goose. A work that becomes better through discussion or one's response to the text. Just like the fat that is located within, under the flesh of the goose as you're beginning to consume. For that I went with Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, and I think that what is more amazing about Waiting for Godot is not necessarily the story itself, but what happens when you begin to dissect the details as to what takes place within the story, the characters themselves, what Godot really means, and I think that it got even more intriguing when the Gladiators and I were discussing Waiting for Godot back in Season 4, and I think it's a discussion that I feel more people need to check out. I know that there were there were some active booktubers that really found that discussion to be amazing. It was quite... I think all of us put a lot into it, and I think it was one of our strongest discussions that we had. Next one is deer, which is the most common form of hunting in my area, at the very least. Deer is made into venison when served, but a great work that you thought was a bit short or very lean, because deer is often compared to beef, only in a much leaner sense, and people have often said that when they have deer when you have a venison burger, you have to put much more on it in order to emphasize what's between the two pieces of bread. For this one I went with Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and the reason being that I thought that Through the Looking Glass was a brilliant book. I think that I think that its message was very strong and lingering in how it emphasizes what Carroll introduced in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland with the absurdities of our very own lives. But I think that the story itself and the characters, it was a bit slimmer in its amount and its quality, if that is such a thing. Humpty Dumpty is already a borrowed character from nursery rhyme, but what Lewis Carroll did with Humpty Dumpty was outside of the box kind of clever, and I think that is an emphasis of a great book that was a bit short, but still a great book. The next one is Bison, a work where you feel the characters set themselves up for trouble. And for that one, I went with Titus Andronicus by William Shakespeare. Our discussion of Titus Andronicus will be going up in February, and I'm just going to say that you should check out my review for Titus Andronicus, and that will tell you enough of what I think. But to make a long story short, the characters in this piece don't do enough to fight for their own lives. The next one is Elk. A big, wholesome book you would recommend. And for that, I went with Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power by John Meacham. And the reason I'm choosing this one is because this pretty much tells you everything you need to know about Thomas Jefferson. It gives you a great sense of who he was as not just a leader, but as an individual. And I think that by reading this, I developed a greater sense of understanding for Thomas Jefferson. This is probably, I would think, this set the ground for great biographies about Jefferson. The next one is Squirrel. A short work or poem with great depth. And for this one, I went with He Would Not Stop for Me and Who Could Wonder by A.E. Housman. We went over that in Season 6, and I noticed that with this poem, even though it's only 4 lines, there's so much that can be explored about it, especially with the speculation that A.E. Housman was homosexual, and that was forbidden at the time that he was writing, and in particular writing this poem. Next one is Rabbit. A work with a cute title or cover, but an ugly and/or gruesome plot. And for this one, I went with Animal Farm by George Orwell, because I'm taking my own personal experiences into account, and how, when I first saw the cover, while I was thinking that it would be about animals on a farm setting up their own form of leadership and overthrowing their current human leader, I had no idea, I had no idea that it was going to turn into what it turned into, and present such a bleak, but at the same time, true conclusion. But that's the conclusion Orwell has touched upon on plenty of occasions when it comes to the human nature in the face of leadership. And he touches on this in 1984 as well, if not more so in 1984. Next one is whale. Whale hunting is something that is completely a part of the past, unless you're talking about specific species in the Arctic area or in Greenland, where their basis of getting food is, in many cases, through hunting, seal, caribou. I'm not sure what the condition, what the status is when it comes to whale hunting, but a huge book that took a great deal of effort to read and left you exhausted. In essence, the plot of Moby Dick. My choice to this question is not Moby Dick, because I have not read Moby Dick. While at the moment, I can honestly say that Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky is making its way into that position as being a work that requires a great deal of effort and is going to leave me exhausted when I'm done. The one that I'm going to choose is something that I already finished, and that is Of Human Bondage by W. Somerset Maugham. It took me a relatively great deal of time to finish this, and it was a bit of a plotting experience. The only thing is, when I finished reading this, I felt a sense of accomplishment and, deep down, a greater sense of understanding of the human condition. The next one is Fishing Instead, a work that helped you change a habit or way of living. Because if you fish, you have the opportunity to release what you have caught if you don't want to eat it, or if you didn't have any plans to do so anyway. But once you catch what you hunted, that decision is irreversible. But the book that I chose for this is Martha Stewart's Vegetables, because I think that reading this has really gotten me into cooking more, and not only cooking, but also eating a healthier selection of food, and exploring much more of what eating different kinds of vegetables has to offer. Mother always says, eat your vegetables. This has been a year where I've been delving into more of that, and I think that, yeah, I am a bit of a picky eater. I'm getting better, though. And I think that this book was helpful in doing so. What do I have the... Yeah, that's right, I gotta make a mustard green pesto, which, if I can find it at a store that carries it, I'm going to definitely go forth with that. Next one is, what is your position on hunting? And if favorable, what is your favorite kind of game? Which, to me, when it comes to hunting, I personally am not into it. I'm not interested in going out to hunt, but I think that as long as people don't get carried away and know what they are doing, I support their right to hunt. When it comes to hunting, I think that I feel that hunting for food is reasonable. I don't think that hunting for sport. I don't like when you hunt and just use what you caught as a trophy. I think that is... I think that it's unnecessary. I feel that if you're going to hunt and eat what you hunted, and I especially feel that if you're hunting because that is your primary source of food and you need to do it to live, I think that that's perfectly acceptable. And I feel that if an animal is endangered, I think that they should be protected and not hunted. As far as fishing is concerned, I think that if you're fishing for sport, release the fish when you're done. Maybe a quick picture, but only so much as need be, so that the fish can survive when it's released into the water. And if you're going to eat the fish, then that's acceptable. Then I'm a supporter for fishing. But if you're going to fish and hang it up like that Frankie the Fish from the Filet-O-Fish commercials for McDonald's, I don't support that. I don't think if you're going to... I feel that if you're hunting or fishing for food, that's one thing. But fishing and hunting for sport, if you release the fish, that's okay. But I'm not a fan of hunting as a sport and using the animal as a trophy. But my favorite kind of game is duck. I am... duck is something that I am looking to have at some point in time. It is something that is nice and juicy, can get greasy, but I enjoy having a duck every once in a while. And then the last one is hunting trip. Who do you tag? I'm going to leave a link down below to the people that I choose to tag and nominate to do this game book tag. If you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. I know that this is a pretty touchy subject, but there are people that hunt for food, and some people enjoy doing so, and that is their right. And I thought that the questions that came along with a tag of this nature really matched up. Thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you check out some more videos on our channel. I'm going to be putting together another foodie book tag. It's going to be number 20, and that will be out in 2 weeks. Thank you for tuning in, and for now, keep reading.